Good evening and welcome to the Fairfield City School District Board of Education meeting for June 6, 2024. Mrs. Lane, please call the roll.
Mr. Begley.
Here.
Mrs. Birding Miller.
Present.
Mr. Clark.
Present.
Mrs. Gundrum. Mr. Napier.
Here. Thank you. Mr. Napier, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Napier. Presentations and resolutions. How about if I lead us out with the Butler Tech Showcase Participation Award? So let me give everyone a little background on that. Butler Tech is the Career Tech Center here for Butler County, and the 10 school districts in Butler County all send students there. And at the end of the school year, they have an all-boards meeting and a showcase of the students' talents. And so they invite the 5 board members, the treasurer, and the superintendent from each district to come and attend and really learn more about what's going on at all the different campuses of Butler Tech. This meeting is held at D. Russell Lee facility here in Fairfield Township. And of course, the culinary students, easy for them to show what their talents and what they can do. But for all the other programs, this is a chance for them to get in front of people and present what they're working on, what their passion is, what they've learned. Have they earned a certification? Are they graduating and walking right into the labor force? Many of them are. And so this is a great opportunity for us as board members to learn more about what's going on, and then also to share with them some constructive criticism of how they're doing. So it is encouraged that those 7 representatives from each school district see as many showcases as they can that night. It happened to be on May 2nd, we happened to have a board meeting and we all had to be here, but Butler Tech asked if there was anyone else we would like to send, and so we did. We in fact came up with Doug Robertson. Doug is a proud Fairfield graduate and serves as the board's representative on the Fairfield City Planning Commission, where the school board has a seat to make sure that the things that are coming to Fairfield or what's happening in Fairfield, that we get kind of a first look at it as a school district and have some input. So we thank you very much for your service there. We also invited Devin Duncan. Who here doesn't know Devin Duncan? The omnipresent Devin needs no real introduction. The recent Fairfield graduate, Devin, needs no introduction, but Devin went also to learn more and to represent us. And between just the 2 of them, they filled out more evaluations than all of the other districts. And so at the last Butler Tech board meeting, I was presented this award, had no idea that it was possible for us to have won it. And then tonight, I want to actually present it to those who earned it. Devin and Doug, would you please meet me at the podium? It's not on. Let's see what we got to do. Okay. So, Stella, you turned it off. Hey. I'll talk loud. So, all I really want to say is that I'm loving my time on Butler Tech. They're doing some amazing things there. Of course, there's the Bioscience Center, there's natural science, there's adult education out on the Swordsville campus. Of course, everything that goes on at D. Russell Lee. We have many students. In fact, we're number 1. Most students from Fairfield are participating at those campuses. And then we have many Butler Tech classes within our networks. So it's really a great thing. They're on the cutting edge of what they're doing. Fairfield's a huge part of that. And again, we show very well. And this is like Lord Stanley's Cup, and that we don't get to keep it. But for tonight anyway, I'm going to proudly present it to Doug Robertson and Devin Duncan for what you did.
When does that go back? I'll say they can rotate every other week.
There you go. We'll hold on to it for a while.
Travel trophy.
We'll make them sweat.
Just don't lose it.
Yeah, just don't listen.
Again, thanks for your participation, for being here tonight. Mr. Smith, next presentation?
Yes, our second presentation is in regard to a financial update and the implications of that update. So at this time, I will turn it over to Mrs. Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. As the board may recall, at our last board meeting, the five-year forecast was presented, and when that was presented, it showed an improved financial condition from our November forecast. So tonight, I just wanted to go over, again, some of the things that changed from November to try to provide an explanation for those changes and give you some more information. I know not everybody was able to make the last meeting. So tonight, I just wanted to share some of the contributing factors to that, whereas our revenue, under all other operating revenues, came in higher than projections by about $2.9 million. That was due to higher than anticipated interest income, and mainly due to our tax increment financing district payments. So there were some new districts that became active, which we were not aware of, and that income came in at about $1.2 million from just the one tax increment financing district in the city. We also received increased revenue from our current tax increment financing districts because of the reappraisal. So again, combined with the interest income and the tax increment financing payments, we realized a $2.9 million increase in our revenue under that line item. Under expenditures, we had our salaries projections came in lower than anticipated, about $3.6 million, projected again, because we still have this month to go. That cost savings that we put into place at the beginning of the year, a lot of that doing to deal with restructuring of some of our programs we have here, that achieved a higher than projected savings. So in combination with that and some reduced overtime, reduced substitute cost, we had less severance pay that we plan on paying out actually this month. So that combination, again, came in lower at $3.6 million than what was projected. Employee benefits, the second line item under expenditures, is tied to the salaries. So if salaries don't go up as much, benefits don't go up as much because you have retirement cost, Medicare cost, workers' comp cost. So we achieved savings there because we had lower salaries. We also offered a new option under our health insurance plan, which was a lower premium option for our employees. So it's a win for the board side, it's a win for the employees because they're paying less out of their pocket for that premium. So the combination of those things, again, amounted to about a $1.9 million less than projected in the expenditures for employee benefits. So cumulatively, if you take those into consideration, the adjustment to the projections for future salary and benefit expenditures helped to change the projected cash balance for fiscal year 2027. So what once was a negative is now a positive $12.9 million because of that cumulative effect between the increased revenue, reduced expenditures, reduced projections, and for future years. So that is our update from the forecast from last meeting. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to hear that and ask questions once Mr. Smith is done presenting what he's going to present, and we'll be open to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Lane. So, Mr. Begley, members of the board, as Mrs. Lane just shared, the financial status of the district has changed significantly for the better since November. As a result, I would like to recommend that the Board of Education consider reinstating our transportation levels of service for FCSD students back to the same levels that were in place during the 23-24 school year. On the agenda this evening, you will see a recommendation to rescind the reductions in force of our transportation employees that were previously voted on. By voting yes on that item, you will essentially be agreeing to restore transportation levels for FCSD students back to what was offered last year. This also means that start times and end times for the 24-25 school year will not change. In addition, Based on the latest financial update given by Mrs. Lane, our leadership team would like to press pause on any discussions about going back on the ballot. It is hard to put a date on when it might be necessary to re-engage in that conversation, but I am hopeful that we can wait until at least November of 2025. I would like to make a few comments in regard to the improvement in the forecast and the district's response to it. First of all, the latest 5-year forecast, as Mrs. Lane did not go into detail this evening about the future past 2027, but if you go back to the May 16th forecast, and that forecast is available online, all of the documents associated with it, there is still a need for a levy in the future. However, it's good news that we have bought ourselves some time. So as a result, as I said a few minutes ago, I'm hopeful we won't have to take a look at another potential ballot issue until November 2025. While this is an unexpected change, it is good news. I'm thankful that we have an opportunity to restore busing for our students and families, and that we can pause on those levy conversations with the board for the short term. Of all the reductions implemented, restoring transportation services for FCSD students is the only item that we are restoring. As Mrs. Lane shared, the reductions that have been implemented have made a positive impact on the district's current financial status into the future. I would like to say that making those reductions is never an easy process. That task was not taken lightly by anyone involved. When we started those conversations, we shared that we would try to minimize the impact on students and teaching and learning as much as possible. And I believe that our team has done a great job of doing so. While it was not easy to eliminate 12 teaching positions, our team worked hard to find other teaching positions in this district for those individuals. At this time, there are 2 teachers out of the 12 on a reduction in force list. Of those 2, one of those teachers has been offered multiple jobs inside the Fairfield City School District. And please understand that I know losing one job hurts. And that is why making these reductions is such a difficult process. Again, I believe that our team has done an outstanding job of trying to minimize that impact on our students and our employees. While we welcome this good news about the forecast, we also realize, as I said earlier, it is a short-term win. In the near future, we will likely find ourselves in the same boat we were in just a few months ago. I also think it's important to note that I believe 3 districts in the entire state of Ohio were able to pass an operating levy, which was for new money, back in March. 3 school districts in the entire state. As a result, we will continue to look for ways to save money so that we can stay off of the ballot for as long as possible. In closing, I do want to share with everyone that we are doing what we think is right based on this latest update. We did the same thing in November after the 5-year forecast. That forecast, as I said, changed for the better. The district is now doing what we think is right and fiscally responsible based on the latest information. Again, I am very thankful that we find ourselves in this position. I know there are other school districts across the state that have found themselves at the opposite end of a change in a financial forecast. Just as I have said before, we will continue to communicate regularly with all of our stakeholders. As I mentioned earlier, forecasts are online. All the documents associated with those forecasts can be found there. If anyone has any questions or needs help finding those, please let us know. At this time, I'll turn it back over to the board for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Board members, questions?
I do have a question. So you said that we reduced 12 positions and you only mentioned 2. So what about the other 10 positions?
The other 10 we've found positions for them inside the district, just not the same position that they were teaching in prior to these reductions.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Smith, I think it's worth noting that when we came out with that initial list of projected cuts, at the time we said that those positions, even if a levy passed in March, wouldn't be coming back. Is that correct?
The teaching
The
positions.
teaching positions.
That's
right.
correct.
Right. So nothing's really changed there.
That is correct.
And
Yeah, and
again,
again, these conversations that we have as a team, that we've had with the board. There's nothing positive about those conversations. It's a very difficult process. I won't go into great detail. I know if anyone wants to go back and watch some of those board meetings back when we initiated this process, it was heartbreaking. It's tough. But again, you find yourself in this predicament that you have to find ways to save money in the event that you're not able to increase your revenue. And that's what our team has done. And again, thankful that while this is certainly unexpected, it's welcome news. I met with our administrative team earlier this week and shared that now we can focus more on teaching and learning going into this new school year versus management of parking lots for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon. We can, again, get back to teaching and learning, which should always be our main focus, and serving our kids and our families. So.
Ms. Lane, Mr. Smith, thank you so much for the clarity, and to piggyback off of Abby about the 12 and the 10 that do have roles in the district still, that's good news. Even though this is not winning the lottery, it does allow us some time, as you mentioned, to kind of walk through some things, think about how we're going to progress, but ultimately the students hopefully will get busing back, and we'll talk about that tonight a little bit, but it adds a little more timeline to what we can do, and maybe revenue will change, and if we need a levy, it might be less, and that's good news. So it's all about the kids, and the busing is a big deal. It's a huge deal, and it can save time to teach, as you just mentioned as well. So the surprise of the almost $3 million that came out, I think that's a huge blessing, and the other things will kind of fall into place. It's like nailing Jell-O to a wall, I say sometimes. You can't, forecast is just that. It's a forecast, and it will change. So thank you for this, and I appreciate your transparency.
As an employee for 22 years here, it's different to see this side than that side. You guys do a great job up here. When you're working here, you don't realize all the work and effort you guys put in to save jobs. And I'm just very appreciative of what you guys do.
Thank you.
I also want to thank you guys, and if we are able to reinstate the busing, I'm excited to see that, because we know we were super concerned with Holden Boulevard being shut down and the impact that was going to have with parents dropping off elementary students and all of the students that would have to come to the high school. So thank you for your guys' diligence and work on that.
Thank you.
The district's budget is $111 million annually, and we have been, for the last several years, deficit spending or close to it in most of those years, and pulling from our reserves. And so then as you project forward, 2027, as an example, becomes a year where we were going to be in the red, and school districts aren't allowed to be in the red. So that was the impetus that drove us to have conversations that eventually, and believe me, we were all the way back during the pandemic talking about this, and about being in a position to have a levy. And this is new information, right? I think a lot of people might say, well, we were just on the ballot in March, and 2 months later we have money. But this is all new information to us. And as you've said, a blessing, right? Positive on the revenue side, negative on the expense side, and those are great things that some of it will carry forward into a 2027 and project us into a new position, but it doesn't answer all of our questions into 28 and into 29 and beyond. So I don't know what's harder. The Jell-O analogy is a good one, but projecting where we're going to be in 5 years is there's some art in that science, and nobody does it better than Mrs. Lane, and we appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
And so we'll take this good news, and with that victory, vote here soon, and I hope reinstall busing, right? And that was my first thought, everyone's first thought, is the hardship that that would create for our families in the district. Just to reduce transportation services to state minimums was going to be very difficult for our families and a logistical nightmare for our buildings. So that was the first thing we had to do, and that's where we're coming to so quickly with this information and working so hard to rehire bus drivers that are already difficult to hire. Thank you to the staff working on that to make that happen. And we can restore that for this school year and move forward and continue to forecast what I hope is a bright future for Fairfield City School District.